Hello and welcome to the ADHD Artist Podcast, where we explore and celebrate the lives of artists with ADHD. Listen to interviews with all different types of artists with ADHD, where we talk about life, art, superpowers, and... Wait, what was I saying? Hosted by Sarah Guys, your fellow ADHD artist. Thanks for joining. Hey everyone. Welcome back. This is episode 12, and happy late St. Patrick's Day. I did nothing to celebrate this year, other than put on my favorite Irish sweater. I will say that any excuse to wear green is great with me. Hope everyone is doing well and that your loved ones are getting vaccinated. It's crazy that it's been over a year now since the pandemic first started. I don't know why I always feel the need to, acknowledge current events. You all know what's going on. It's not like you're listening to this because it's a news podcast. But anyways, I like to check in and just say, hello, I am living in the world, same as you. Today's episode is an interview with Susie Sahim. I met Susie because I am actively on Twitter now, which is brand new for me. And someone recommended that I reach out to her, and I'm really glad they did. So let me tell you a little bit about Susie. She is an entrepreneur, illustrator, animator, and web developer based in San Jose, California. She worked for Google for 13 years, during which she delighted people by creating more than 100 doodles as a Google Doodler, which, yes, is a thing, and yes, it blew my mind that it's called that, and yes, I love it so much, and you'll definitely hear in the episode us talking about what exactly that means. And later going on to become a tech lead for a code library, leading and mentoring a team of web developers. In 2019, she left the corporate world to pursue her entrepreneurial dreams. Her mission is to motivate artists with art role-playing games on paperdemon.com, an art and writing community. She's passionate about the importance of communities to help neurodivergent creators feel accepted, build confidence, and overcome art block. So cool. Here's the interview with Susie. Enjoy. All right. I am here with my guest today, Susie Sahim. Susie,
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the ADHD Artist Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Me too. So I always like to start out just by asking, have you had any very noticeable ADHD moments in the last couple days that you can share?
Well, Sarah, I can tell you, I knew this question was coming and I made a list.
Oh, good.
Because I knew that when this question would come, I'd be like, I'm sure that I had some symptoms, but I don't remember what they were. So, yes, I made a list. Hold on, let me find it.
Oh, good.
Okay, so I've definitely had a lot of productivity issues this month. I have had days where I don't start working until 2, and it used to be I'd start working at, I don't know, 8 o'clock in the morning or something.
Right.
I used to get up pretty early, but lately it's just been very difficult just getting out of bed. Definitely been struggling a lot with the anxiety because I have that as well. I've been forgetting to eat.
Oh, no.
And I've been struggling with grocery shopping. And funny enough, grocery shopping appears in my list twice. So apparently I'm really struggling with grocery shopping.
Is that the actual act of going, or is it once you're there, or the whole thing?
It's going. I don't want to go. I've been relying on my husband a lot to take care of it. Sometimes we'll tackle it together just so that we're both suffering together because neither of us likes to do it.
Yeah, especially depending on when you go grocery shopping. Whew, you go on a Sunday, it's it's a walking panic attack.
Oh yeah, and that's also been a struggle for me, is the anxiety gets too much, especially when it's more crowded.
Yeah.
As I'm sure a lot of listeners are experiencing the same thing.
Yeah, especially in during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Whew, there's a whole new set of struggles that have either come up or gotten worse with the pandemic. So then When were you diagnosed with ADHD?
I was diagnosed at age 7.
Okay.
It helped that I have 2 older brothers. They're a lot older than me, and they both got diagnosed with it too.
Got it.
And so when my teachers were telling my mom, like, hey, she's having trouble paying attention in class, and like she's disruptive sometimes, and like this and that, and she's like, ah, I know what this is, you know. So
Yeah. You had a like framework for it already.
yeah, unfortunately, the psychiatrist that we had, was acting under outdated information that you outgrow it. So,
Oh, right.
so that ADHD is something that you outgrow. So, I was taken off medication like around age probably 12 or 13 or something.
Mm.
So then it was like a matter of like being almost undiagnosed, because it's like you don't have this anymore, and like, but I was still struggling. I'm like, Mom, please, can I go back on medication? She's like, the
Yeah.
doctor told you no, you don't have it anymore. And like, what?
Oh
I
my
don't
God.
believe you. So
Oh.
then like it was a matter of like in college I was struggling a lot. Again, obviously,
Right.
as many of us do, college is hard.
Yep.
For those of us with ADHD, it's extra hard.
Mhm.
A lot more is expected of you, a lot more independence and everything. So I sought out getting re-diagnosed, going back into treatment, that sort of thing, and that was a big help. And I was able to get accommodations and stuff too. So
Yeah.
I would not have graduated if I had not done that. I think I would have dropped out.
Yeah, I'm so interested in like the accommodations and stuff because I too had a terrible like college experience, at least that first semester. And I was like desperate to find someone to help. I didn't want to
Yeah.
talk to my peers about it. It was kind of like, please help me, but I don't want to ask you. Can you just come help?
And it's hard too, like revealing to your professors what you have, because
Yeah.
sometimes they don't react in the way that they should. They're not always supportive. In fact, like, I don't know if this was your experience, but when I got accommodations, like they specifically told me, don't tell your professors what your disability is. Just say you have a disability.
Oh,
And because they had like a specific center you go to, you get registered, they establish that you have a disability, whether it's ADHD or something else.
yeah.
Um, and like they said, don't tell your professors, because you can't count on how they're going to react. They might say like, oh, ADHD is bad parenting, it doesn't exist, blah blah
Yeah.
blah. So
That
that
fun argument to have with
yeah, so
people.
and yeah, so I had to be careful with what I said. Um, yeah, it sucks that you can't be honest about it. I feel like we're going on a tangent, but I
No,
feel like we could
this
have
is
a whole
great.
topic just on that. Like,
Absolutely. Well, I'm curious, like, so that was in college. Do you feel like that's changed at all? Like in your life specifically? This idea of like keeping things a secret versus telling people that you have ADHD?
I think it's getting better.
Mm,
Like, there's more. The needle's moving. It's moving in the right direction,
yeah.
but I still think you got to be careful with who you tell,
Mm,
especially if they're your professor or your boss,
yeah.
because even like 6 years ago, I think maybe it was more than 6 years ago. It's got to be more than that. Maybe it was 8 years ago. I revealed to a boss that I had ADHD,
Right.
and it did not go well. And
Interesting.
I suffered for that.
Did they start treating
So,
you differently? Is that why? Or
oh yeah, oh
wow.
yeah, that was that person. I probably can't. I probably shouldn't. Gosh, I want to talk so badly about this because I feel like it's a warning. It's a
Yeah.
cautionary tale for others, but this was a person I had a good relationship with. She was
Yeah.
my boss. We had a good relationship, and I was starting to struggle. And I'm like, I think I'm struggling because of this. And it's not that I had recently come up with the diagnosis. I had been diagnosed for years, but I was being vulnerable with her and explained to her, this is what I think is going on. I need some extra support.
Hmm.
And she completely changed the way that she treated me from that point on, and I was miserable. Every meeting I had with her, one-on-one meeting, I was in tears at the end of it. So this person was not not
a safe person.
not a safe person. That's a great way to put it. She was not a safe person.
Yeah.
So, and that's not the experience that I've had with every other boss. Like since then, other bosses I've had, they've been supportive.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. Well, and I know that you've worked at some corporations. Nowadays, you're doing a lot of like, art projects, and I can't wait to get into asking you about all that. But you do have experience like working at big corporations. So do you feel like it was more of an issue there than it is when you kind of like when you start something like Paper Demon, where it's a different kind of business?
With Paper Demon specifically, we are very open and talk a lot about mental health. So we are specifically cultivating a safe space to discuss mental health.
Yeah.
And I'm the boss, so I don't have to report to someone who's going to be toxic. And if someone is toxic, I have the ability and responsibility to take that person and remove them from that from the community, because we're trying to cultivate a safe place. So I think it is different in a corporation, but I think it's what we're doing with Paper Demon. It's just like apples and oranges. Like it's really easy for people who are not as supportive to be rewarded for doing that in a corporation. I don't know. I don't want to say that it's a systemic problem at the particular company I worked for. I think it is just there are bad apples that exist.
Right.
So, and I do want to like be in defense of Google. That was where I worked. I worked there for like 13 years or something. I do think that they were trying to, I think they want to have people within their company that are supportive. I think they know that that's better for employees. And I think it's just harder though for them to try and tease out and figure out who's telling the truth. But yeah, I don't know. Like overall, like I had a great experience there. It's a great company. My last boss that I had there was incredibly supportive.
Right.
So yeah.
No, that's awesome. Well, and speaking of Google, can you tell me a little bit about the transition in your life out of Google and into, I guess, doing more artistic endeavors? Was that a good way to put it? I don't know.
Yeah. So I consider I label myself as an entrepreneur. So yeah, I started my own business. I've been running Paper Demon for forever, like 18 years or something. I started in college, and it's always been like a hobby. But then like in 2017, I'm like, you know what? I really enjoy doing this. Maybe I should make it my job. So I decided to put forth some effort to see if it could be something that I could do full time. So at the time I was still working at Google. So first what I did is I tried to get up early in the mornings to work on my business, like a couple hours a day or whatever, and a little bit on the weekends, just to see if I could do it consistently. Because the ADHD critic in me was saying like, oh, you're not going to be able to stick with this, and like you're going to be inconsistent, and you know there's
destined for failure.
Exactly. Like you get excited about it, you know, a new project every 2 minutes. Like, how are you going to stick to this? So first I had to like prove to myself like, hey, can I do this for a few months consistently? And if I could, then I was going to register it as an LLC, and then I was going to have the conversation with my manager about what my long-term goals were, and just basically say, look, I want to move toward pursuing my business full time. Is there something I can do? I basically negotiated to work less hours at my job with less pay. So it was like I worked 4 days a week, and so I'd have an extra day that I could spend on my business. So I did that for a period of time. And then I had the conversation. I gave them like 3 months notice, so they knew that I was leaving. Like, gave them more than enough notice. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to pursue this full time. So I gave them, the notice and everything, and so that we could, because I was in a leadership position, I was managing a rather large project that a lot of other people were dependent upon. So it was important that I kind of help them, pass the baton off to someone else if they were going to hire a replacement for me.
Yeah. Can I interrupt you? Like, I know I asked you one question, but now, so did it actually say, it said Google Doodler on your Twitter account? Was that an actual title? Google Doodler?
Yes. So
That's
in my
amazing.
first few years at Google, I did graphic design and Google Doodles. So the holiday logos that you see on the Google homepage to celebrate either people who made big contributions to science or technology or the arts or whatever. Google celebrates those contributions or particular works of art or any of that kind of stuff. I worked on the team that illustrated those, so I was responsible for illustrating. I think I illustrated like 101 doodles total
Wow.
that have appeared
I'm
on
sorry, that's
Google's
so cool.
homepage.
I'm
Yeah.
just like, oh my gosh, a celebrity. I saw those.
So my art has been seen by millions and millions of people, and yet like I have like 700 followers on Twitter. So I'm very poor at like I don't actually have access to. I'm not
Right,
famous.
right,
My work is
right,
famous, but like I'm not
right.
famous.
Yeah. Oh, that artist struggle of like, you
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
want to be like, excuse me, that's me. Give me more attention. Uh,
It was a pretty
it
cool
sounds
job.
cool.
I enjoyed
Yeah.
it.
Well then, so I interrupted you. So, then tell me about Paper Demon and starting Paper Demon and what it is.
Absolutely. Yeah. So paperdemon.com is an online art and writing community. And what we do is we gamify art challenges. So we host what are called art role playing games to help motivate creators to create more. And we're very mental health focused. So as you have, aptly discovered, there's a huge intersection between people who are creative and people who are neurodivergent. And so,
Yeah.
like this was something that was very obvious to me as well. So I kind of realized, like, hey, if I'm gonna serve people who are in the arts, the best way to do that is to make mental health a big part of it.
Yeah.
And so I myself had struggled in the past with artist block, which is a crazy thing. I think it would be for many people to hear, even though I had my art on the frickin'
Right,
Google
right, right,
homepage.
right.
Like, how does that happen? And it's true. Like I came into I lost a lot of confidence in myself as an
Mm,
artist at the time that I was on the Doodle team, and had wasn't creating anything for myself, any art that I was excited about. And so if someone like me could have struggled with artist block for years, there's got to be a lot of other people who are struggling with
yep.
it. So my mission is to help creators get unstuck, help them find a sense of community, help them find a sense of belonging and acceptance. It's okay to be different. It's okay to have ADHD. It's okay to have anxiety. It's you're in good company, because those are the folks that are within our community walls. We've got folks across the spectrum with all sorts of things.
Yeah. So then, because I'm unfamiliar with this term and how it works, can you tell me about art RPGs? Like how they work, what is it? How they help unblock, or not, I hate saying like unblock artists, but like help artists to unblock, I guess.
Yeah. So as we've kind of seen it in the talks by Dr. Russell Barkley, it's all about like bribery. You got to bribe your kids to do what they need to do, which is kind of why I've kind of gone this route of gamification and art RPGs, because it's basically a way of getting rewarded for creating.
Yeah.
And so the way to kind of think about it, it's a role playing game where like Dungeons and Dragons, like a tabletop role playing game almost, except there's a lot more players. and you progress forward in the game by creating art or writing a story. So, like, for example, in Paper Demon is running its own art RPG, but we also host about like 8 other art RPGs as well on our platform. With ours specifically, you create a character, so you might have an original character that you like to draw already, and so you'd register that character with the game, and then you'd establish like an elemental power that this character has, and you draw your character discovering their elemental power, whether it's fire or water or whatever, and you get points for that. So you get experience points, you get gold, you get ability points. So you get all these different things that help you to progress forward in the game, and you continue to create. You either write fictional stories, or you draw your character doing these different prompts, and we give you the prompts. So we give you specific challenges that you participate in. Some of them are available all the time, so you can do them at your leisure, or we've got others that are specifically tied around an event that lasts maybe 1 to 2 months. So there might be specific rewards that you can only get if you participate in that challenge at the time that we're hosting it. So every like 1 to 2 months, we have a new challenge that comes out. And usually those are structured as like a location. We call them portals.
Cool.
So it's like your character goes through this magical portal to this other world, and like we give you a description of what that world looks like, and then you have to interpret it. So you're drawing your character in Avantgarde. Avantgarde is one of our portals. It's the world of skies. So it's like this place of airships and people that live in the skies. So you're drawing your character discovering this world, and maybe they're flying in an airship or something like that. There's lots of different ways you can interpret it. We give you prompts. We give you written prompts that you can choose from. And we also allow it to be self-guided, so you don't have to participate in everything. There are certain ones that we ask you to start with to establish your character, to get certain abilities, because you need to establish that you have an elemental power. You need to establish that your character has a particular item, and these are designed to like teach you each of the pieces of the game. So because the thing with these RPGs, the challenge that most players face is that it's really hard to understand how to play. I mean, I'm sure you and anyone listening to this podcast right now is kind of confused. It's like, wow, that's a lot of stuff. It sounds complicated, right? And that's the biggest challenge, is that our RPG on Paper Demon is actually pretty simple compared to the other ones that exist. And it's really hard for a new player to kind of get started. So we're trying to find a way to like really create a walkthrough that kind of just teaches you piece by piece and help you to get started with them. But there's a lot of different ones. Most of the art RPGs, you purchase or you adopt a character that has already been designed, and you have to draw that character doing prompts. Again, like I had outlined. In ours, it's like you are creating your own original character. As long as it's a humanoid, it can be a anthropomorphic, it could be a furry, it could be, you can do like a fox person if you want, or whatever. I could talk your
I love
all day long about art RPGs, because there's like, it's a really deep topic. It's a niche community though, because not a lot of people know about it. In fact, I was surprised when I heard about it. I'm like, how did I not know that this thing existed? Like, and I was already on this track of like trying to gamify art. I was already offering XP points before I even knew what an art RPG was. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of them that exist.
Yeah. So first of all, I have to know, what is your favorite of the elemental powers?
Ooh, so I really like the sky elemental, because it can, so one of the interesting mechanics we have is that you can combine your element with another player's element to create a new element, like a second tier element. And so there's a new element. We actually haven't revealed this. Your listeners are hearing this for the first time. But so we've got this element called celestial. which is a combination of sky and I think it's water. I think those two, I can't remember exactly, but sky and water combined to create the celestial elemental power. So we're going to do some cool stuff with that once it gets released. My character is a water elemental, and I chose that because it's a more of a support character. They can heal other players, so it's a good thing for me to do because then I can kind of help other players when their HP is low or whatever.
Oh, so yeah. So it's a way to like communicate and collaborate, help each other too, like on the game.
Yes.
Awesome.
Our game is designed to be collaborative. We've got and we're still working out the collaborative part. The collaboration comes from our boss battles. We'll have every once in a while a boss will appear and then players collaboratively try to defeat the boss.
Got it.
As well as protect one another.
Got it. That's awesome. So then if someone was feeling stuck, like an artist, even if they don't have ADHD, they're feeling stuck, they're feeling kind of blocked, lack of motivation. How does this help them out of that?
That's a great question. So it really depends on what their reason for being stuck is. So a person might be stuck because they're kind of lacking confidence, or they might be stuck because they're not sure what to draw. They're kind of like out of inspiration. Or they might be stuck because they don't have access to the sorts of things that they would need, or, you know, there's many different reasons. The way art RPGs help people who are stuck is it's bribing you.
Right. Yeah.
You are getting bribed with gold, with XP, with ability points and items. And then there's also like one thing you fall into that might be the thing that kind of gets you in the door. But then at the end of the day, you get to meet the other people who are there, who are going through the same thing, who have had such a hard time finding a healthy, non-toxic environment to hang out. And then they stay for that. I think that's what keeps people around.
Yeah. Well, and I like that it's a very, I don't want to say small, but a very specific project to start with, right? Because I feel like as artists, not just visual artists either, like any artist, it's like also overwhelming. I could create this, I could do this, I could do that. And then what you're asking is, okay, step one, like register your character, either draw the character or, you know, you have them register them. And that's like step one complete, you know. I think that feels good for people to just have a small task and then they're in the door and then they can kind of go about their
Absolutely. We do try to, and that's something that we're still trying to finesse, is like making sure that it's not too overwhelming. I think that we still have some more work to do there, but yeah, we start off with, you don't even have to do a full illustration of your character. It's just they're like a headshot.
Right.
So you don't have to draw a full body. It's just the head. Heads are pretty easy for the type of people that were like are active in these types of communities. Like a head is pretty easy rather than having to draw the full body. So we try to keep the barrier low to kind of come in and start. And then we the goal is to gradually increase it. And the second challenge is a talisman. You're drawing an object. You're not having to draw an environment. You're not having to draw like your character holding the object. We're trying to keep it small again. And then it starts to get a little bit more complicated as you go through the challenges.
Yeah. Okay. Let me ask this. Okay, so I'm an actor / singer. I'm not like a visual artist. I'm terrible at it. But I started drawing what I call like anxiety comics, which are basically just me making stick figures with little bubbles saying what my anxiety is saying. And it's really fun, right? But it's literally stick figures with like, you know, little bubble eyes and a mouth, and that's all. If I came in with that, would that be okay?
That's a good question. Yeah. I think that our staff would probably have to discuss it, because the thing is, we want to keep it accessible for people of all skill levels, but we also need to keep the game fair.
Right.
because we don't want it to be where someone who has the capability to do more than a stick figure comes in and just draws stick figures and then they get their points. They just
Yeah.
quickly do something in 10 minutes
Yeah.
when other players are spending, 5 to 10 hours on a
Right.
piece. So what we'd probably do is we'd probably ask you to go a little bit beyond what you're comfortable with, and then go from there
Yeah.
and have some level of expectation that you're kind of progressing forward. We're not going to expect you to put together something that someone who's more experienced at
Right.
drawing is able to produce, but we want it to be appropriate for your skill level.
Yeah, I like that too because I'm thinking through and I'm just using myself as an example, but like, I draw these stick figures and part of it I think is like fear and perfectionism. I'm like, well, I'm not even going to
Absolutely.
try to do a more detailed note because A, I know I have ADHD and I'll get distracted. And B, I just don't trust my level, my skill level in that. But if I sat down and tried, I probably could. So it's like
Yeah,
a nice little push to kind of get a little farther.
exactly.
So that's cool.
And that's one of the things too that I think is appealing about art RPGs is that since there's different types, like some like one of the big ones is Draco Strix, and they're all about these bird dragon
Mm-hmm.
things. So, and that's a challenge. Like I don't draw dragon bird things, so I could go and get a character and like this is something new for me. Something the novelty is there. The novelty is what pulls in the ADHD
Yeah.
mind, but also it creates that challenge of like, oh, I've got to do something that's different than I'm not used to
Right.
drawing, and that engages the mind too because you're pushing yourself and growing your skill level
Right.
by taking on something you wouldn't normally
I
take
like
on.
that. I like that. Yeah, sometimes we do need that little push, especially for a lot of us in the pandemic that don't have our normal, like, I guess, like rehearsals and meetup groups and stuff to meet with. It's like it's nice to have specific tasks and specific challenges. Um, so then let's ask my favorite question. What does it feel like for you to make art?
Oh, I knew this question was coming too. See, I came prepared with an answer because actually, when I first heard that question, and I'm like, how the hell am I going to answer that
It's a
question?
hard one. It's like
Yeah, it is
your
hard, but
mindset, right?
yeah, I did think about it. Okay, so for me, it depends on the phase of the artwork. So if I'm in the early stages where I'm concepting, like I'm having to kind of think a lot, and sometimes I'm very unsure about the process. I'm very unsure about the outcome.
Yeah.
So at that point, I have some anxiety, I guess you
Yeah.
could say.
Okay.
Um, and and it may even be frustrating because I have an idea in my head and I'm trying to put it on paper and I might be having trouble getting it
Right.
there. But once I get the idea figured out and I'm doing the line work, then I'm like, okay, now things are chill. I feel pretty
Mm.
relaxed. And then when I start doing the color, it again gets to that point where I don't feel great about it because it looks ugly. Because always at that phase where you're first putting down the color, it is an ugly
Mm.
phase, and you go through this period where it's like, oh, I hate this. This looks terrible, and like but you keep pushing, you keep persevering,
Yeah.
and then eventually gets to the point where it's like, oh, this starts to look good. I'm excited about
Yeah.
this, and then like I'm relaxed. Then I can kind of keep painting and keep going with it until I feel, I'm feeling pretty calm through that part
Mm.
of the process. So I guess it's a mixture of frustration and calm.
Yeah.
Short answer.
Okay.
Does that relate at all to your own to acting or
Yeah,
anything
it
at all?
does. As you went through the process just then, I was uh, trying to understand it in my own way, and I think of we'll just take a rehearsal process for a play. And, for me, the beginning is
so exciting. Oh my gosh, I get to just kind of like explore and think about it and all that. And then it gets to, the actual rehearsals and it's exciting. We get to run through the play for the first time. And then it starts to be work. I have to memorize and all that.
Yeah.
And then, we start discovering things and it gets exciting again. And then this is what I related to and you said the most. And then it's ugly for a while because the play starts to not make sense and everybody's getting irritated because we're like, oh my gosh, we've been doing this thing without an audience for so long, but like we still don't understand it. And so I always remind myself, or I have the people around me remind me that there is going to be once every rehearsal process for any play that I say, I hate this play, I hate acting, I don't want to do it anymore, I'm quitting.
Yes.
Every single time. So now that I know that I always get to that place, it's like, okay, I can kind of like notice what's happening and know that like there's a next point in the process where, we start getting an audience and I feel alive. It feels like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. So
Exactly. Yeah. Oh man, like you described it perfectly. It's like there is a point during that creative process where you want to give up and you think it's terrible. Like yeah, same thing for me. And it's consistent with most illustrations I do. I feel that way. So yeah, like you said, I anticipate it, and when I'm there, I can say, okay, this is the ugly phase. Just keep going. It'll eventually get better.
Yeah. Do you have any tricks for keeping going when you get to the ugly phase? Like, is there any sort of things you do when you wake up or like process wise?
Oh, I wish I had a good answer for that question. I think it's just a matter of persevering and through having that experience of successfully getting to the other side of it, then you feel more confident that you can accomplish it next time.
Yeah. So like, you're very experienced. You've been doing this for a long time. And I'm thinking of like maybe a new artist or an artist who isn't really established yet, getting to that point for the first time and having no other experience to compare it to. So they're just like, it's just ugly. I can't like I want to quit. I wonder what then you would tell them.
I think what I'd probably say is I would ask the person to either try a different process or try a different artwork that is easier and they can feel more confident about. Like, for example, like when I was getting out of my last art block, I went to something that I felt I could feel was short. It wasn't as much of an investment as a finished illustration. I went back to figure drawing. So I went back to the fundamentals. I practiced figure drawing. And with that, you're spending like maybe 5 to 10 minutes per drawing. So, and then you move on to the next one. So you're not getting too attached to it.
Yeah.
And then from that was kind of building up my confidence. So I'd probably ask them to, go back to something that you feel more confident in. Maybe it's fan art. Maybe it's a particular anime that you like a certain character from an anime, draw that character for a while. Don't try to do anything too complicated. Do something simple that you can get to the other side of it, that you finished something and then you feel good. And then you can start to tackle something that's more complex. Because sometimes it's just like, if you're getting to the point where you keep abandoning work before it's done, then it could be that it's just you're not ready to take on something that complex yet.
I love that you talk about finding smaller ways to get to the other side. It's like, you're building your own process, so you have to try the process on a smaller, simpler level in order to move up, because it does take practice.
Absolutely. So, you have to feel confident you have to create moments where you're feeling confident.
Yeah. Create moments where you're feeling confident. I like that a lot. So other than Paper Demon, do you have any current projects that we can support?
I have an animated series that I started with my friends. I only release an episode like once a month, but it's called Dragon Mall Quest.
Oh, that's right. I think I saw this. Yeah.
it's an epic quest of two guys working in a mall that's filled with the chaos and insanity that would only be present in an anime.
Oh my gosh.
So it's a Japanese anime parody spoof. My friends wrote it. They're brilliant. They voiced it, and I did the producing on it. So I did some of the animation work, but I also hired some animators to help me with it. It's something that I'm not able to invest as much time in as Paper Demon. That's where most of my attention is. But Dragon Ball Quest is a fun little comedy series if you're looking for, if you like anime and you like comedy and you don't take things too seriously. Check it out.
Or are looking to maybe lighten up a bit.
Yeah, you could find that at paperdemonmedia.com.
Got it. Okay, cool. Yeah, and I'll list all the links in the episode notes. Susie, thank you so much for coming on. This has been so much fun for me, and I'm sure it's going to be really fun for listeners. Just can't thank you enough.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I hope your listeners get excited and interested in the quirky world of art role-playing games.
Yes, and get those creative juices flowing, Sometimes we just need one thing we just need to hear one thing or see one thing, and we're like, you know what, I'm gonna go make some art. I don't know what it's gonna be. It may suck, but I'm gonna do it, and I hope that happens after this episode.
Me too. I wish everyone success with their artistic careers.
Awesome. All right. Well, we will definitely be in touch and talk soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
And that's it for today for the ADHD Artist Podcast. This podcast was produced by me, Sarah Guys. Original music composed by Christopher Aaron Narr. You can find more of his work at www.christopheraaronnar.com. Narr is spelled Knarr. Podcast artwork by Joseph Ramsky. For any inquiries, you can contact him directly at jramski3@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to hit subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also follow us on Instagram at the ADHD Artist Pod.